Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Wellbeing Show. I've got a great guest, Tyler, who's joining us from VS Life stroke Daddy La Soul. He's a baby La Soul, I think, it might be, or a teeny La Soul now these days. Helped set it up and was one of the original sort of people involved in Dad La Soul. We've had Dan and various people from Dad La Soul on over the years, so we're going to be chatting to him soon. Just a reminder, we record it as though it's live, but actually this is pre-recorded. So please don't call me during the show if you've got questions, because I'll probably be out doing something. Send me a message on WhatsApp. It's 07 506 319 745. And that's about it from me. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm all right this morning. Thank you, Noel. Yeah, mixed bag.
Good. Did you have your 5:30 in the morning swim and run and
We
um
did this morning, yeah. Friday, Friday's our AM accountability club. That's right.
I'm
Double
just
bubble, double
absolutely
bubble
freaked out
today.
by the idea of you getting out of 5:30 in the morning. So,
Yeah, it's not as daunting as it sounds, but yeah,
right.
I can
Let's get into
understand
that.
from the outside.
So where are you based?
I'm down here in West Sussex, in Worthing, sunny Worthing. It is
Is
sunny
that where
today.
you grew up? Is that like your
I
background?
actually, I actually grew up just up the road in Bognor Regis, famous for its butlins, of course.
Yeah,
So I,
I've actually been to Bognor Regis, Butlins when I was a kid. Our family went.
yeah, one of only a couple left now, I believe. But yeah, so I grew up in Bognor, and then in my late teens, I escaped and moved to London. Spent over a decade there in various parts of London. Pretty much lived in every place you could. If I named them all, would have more than two hands. Um, so I spent about over a decade in London, and then I came down to Brighton. It's kind of the natural progress what people do. Come down to Brighton, and then realised that couldn't really didn't really want to bring a family up in Brighton. Truth be told, it's a bit too much finance wise and busy wise. So we moved along the coast and been now in Worthing for about a decade.
Right. And what was your sort of upbringing like? What were you sort of, what's your family background, as it were?
I'm one of four boys.
Yeah.
I've got two older brothers, one younger brother. It's very rock and roll actually, in a certain degree. My mum and dad met in a band. They're not Fleetwood Mac before you ask.
Were they
Um,
performers at Butlins by any
They
chance?
weren't performers at Butlins, although they probably gigged there at some point, I'd imagine. But my dad, my parents are in their late. My mum's actually 80 now, but my dad's in his late 70s. But yeah, they met each other. My mum's originally from America.
Okay.
She's an American, but she spent more years now, obviously in the UK than she did America. She left America in her kind of early 20s, I believe, late teens, early 20s. But they met each other in a band. My dad was the drummer. My mum was a singer in the early 70s. And
I get
yeah,
on with your dad. I'm a drummer as well. So
are you? Yeah.
we're a very special breed as drummers. Bit.
So you certainly are. And he was nicknamed the Animal from the Muppets. He was very
Oh,
much
yeah,
like
right.
that. Yeah. But yeah, my mum and dad met in a band. My dad and got my mum pregnant. Decided he should probably marry her. He doesn't remember the wedding very much, um, and
As you
and
do.
they're still together after all these years. I mean, they're cat and dog, but they've got deep root love for each other, which is lovely. But they still get on each other's tits, I think,
Yeah.
very much. But yeah, I've got two older brothers, one younger. So we had a bit of a free roll, very kind of just get on with it type of upbringing.
Yeah.
My dad was away a lot gigging and stuff, and my mum would just kind of let us get on with it, which was good, but also, if truth be told, lacked a little bit of maybe a bit of discipline there a lot of the time.
Me and my brother were
Look,
feral.
none of us have turned out too bad, so
No,
if we've done
I mean,
something,
my childhood was feral. We were just thrown out in the morning over
yeah,
the
I mean, it was a different time
sandwiches,
though,
not
right?
to come back. Sort
It
of
was
a
just a
week
different
later.
time. Yeah, it's a different time. But yeah, so we grew up in Bognor. Um, uh, then
That would have been quite a laugh for four boys, I imagine.
it was. I mean, there's 10 years between the eldest and the youngest.
Right.
Um, and then but yeah, well, I'm very, very close to my brothers.
Also, I
And
can understand your mum just giving up trying to control you all.
oh, I mean, you'd be like, fuck it,
Like,
wouldn't you? I
what's the
mean,
point?
what is the point? Yeah.
Sort of like she'd have to chain you to something.
Just, but there was a lot
Funny,
of.
my mum said, because she had a very different parenting style from me and my brother. She said,
Mm.
your brother I had to keep on a short leash, but you, there was no point. You were on a very long leash. I knew if I tried to pull you in, it was a waste of time. So,
It's strange because we're very different, me and my brothers, but similar in lots of ways. But my mum was always very. She's always, we'll say it now as well. My dad was like, I was a bit odd in terms of like, I would like for certain times I'd be like, right, I'm going to bed now, and they'd be like, what? Like I take it upon myself to sort myself out. Like I wanted to go to bed, or I'm going to do my homework now, and they're like, okay. Like my other brothers just wouldn't go to sleep or whatever. So I was always kind of, I guess I was always trying to establish some sense of control because it was so mad. I
yeah.
was kind of like it was a bit too loose in to a certain degree, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I did have a fun upbringing, but again, no disrespect to Bogner, but I wasn't a tradesperson. Like I didn't have a trade. I
Yeah.
didn't really know what I wanted to do until I was, well, actually, tell a lie, from a very young age, my mum, I was always quite an entertainer, and I think that probably came from having two older brothers trying to get the attention, maybe. And I kind of said to my mum, oh, I want to be on, I want to be on the telly and da da da. And
Are
so
you,
she took,
do you tend
well,
towards more extroversion or introversion?
expert,
Are you?
expert. Yeah,
So
I
that
think
you feel comfortable in that sort of
I
public
don't have a problem with speaking to anybody. I'm quite confident in front of crowds and things like that. Yeah, I suppose that's probably a mixture of my mum being American. I think Americans generally are a little bit more outgoing and don't really give a shit too much.
very much more outgoing than us.
Yeah, and they might need to reel it in a little bit sometimes.
Yes, quite a little
And my
bit.
dad was obviously being a drummer was very kind of he was there's a lot of things there, but I think he was
And
he
one
really
tends,
couldn't give
you
a
may not
shit.
want to answer this question, which is cool, but one tends to think in that time, rock and roll, there would be, the S, drugs and rock and roll.
Yeah, 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 for
It's
sure.
that sort of environment, I imagine.
It was. I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean, again, I don't give a shit. Like my old man. Yeah. I mean, he's very much. He was. Again, I think we have go and find where he lives if you want. But he was still used down Mars. He was my dog's here. Sorry.
Hello.
He was still use cannabis now. He's
Yeah,
always been part of his life.
yeah,
And our house was very much a kind of open house. It was where everyone came to before they went on the night out. We could come back to ours, and friends could be doing drugs or whatever, and there wasn't really any kind of like um remit on that, if you
yeah.
see what I mean. So we had a lot of freedom in that sense. But none of us have ever kind of had a massive issue with drink or drugs.
Okay.
Um, and my parents haven't either, to be honest. I mean, my dad, like, he's a drummer, but he didn't ever get kind of rely on it as such in
Yeah.
terms of consumption of anything to
I mean,
help him through.
he wasn't an addict or anything, but he
No,
was.
no, no. I mean, you could say that, but I mean, he still smokes cannabis now. But he's got a lot of arthritis, and he has his like it helps him. And I listen, it's whatever,
I hear
And
it.
the only,
Hear it.
go on.
Medical cannabis is pretty much prescribed now for that. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think that's his take on it. And
yeah,
I guess my only reservation against it was like, Dad, if you're going to do it, mate, don't smoke it because tobacco's shit. Like, take it in another form. Like,
yeah.
take the oil, have a muffin or something. Like, don't try not smoke it so much because that is going to ruin your lungs. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
smoking
Um,
with smoke is a really bad news. It's also often how people get hooked on tobacco, which
it
is
is.
it's a really bad idea. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
no,
yeah, upbringing fine, but my passion for like kind of entertainment was from a very young age. My mum was like, okay, well, take you to a young kids audition thing. So I turn up, massive queue, and I'm obviously chomping at the bit. And she's like, "There's no way he's going to be able to do this, because you have to sit there for hours for your 30
yeah,
seconds. Who are you?" type thing. I got in the room, jumped up on the desk. They're like, "Okay, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I can ride a bike." And they're like, "Great. What else can you do?" I was like, "I can play the guitar." "Can you really play the guitar?" And I'm like, "Ah." Anyway, that was when I was kind of like 7 or 8. As a kid, I was quite confident at talking and things like that. And then when I was 14, I had there was a Channel 4 used to have a show called Wise Up, which was like based for kind of early teenagers, and it was like it was kind of experimental, trying to tell people what they're embarrassed about or issues and stuff like that. Anyway, they came down the South Coast. There was a poster in the library saying, "No, if you want to be on telly, come to the library." And I'm like, "Fucking hell, that's great!" 14. I'm like, ball up. And they came down to Bognor and they shot me in the there's a couple of other mates in it as well doing some different things. But my mum and dad had a really embarrassing car at the time. We never grew up with, again, it's a sidetrack. We never really grew up with much money. We were okay. Like, we always had like presents and things, but we didn't go on holiday. We went on one holiday as a family abroad. Again, which is not a big deal, but the car was
Like the camera on my computer because I think it's a bit. Sorry about that.
no, no worries. On my hands here, like stroking backwards. It's a dog,
That's
by the way. I'm not
right.
stroking anything else.
Not scratching your ass or something.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, anyway, I did this one-off show, and I was selling my mum's and dad's embarrassing car in a showroom. It was like a Morris Traveller and it had moss growing in the window and shit. And I really enjoyed it. Anyway, that was kind of it. And then a couple of years later, I got a call out the blue when I was in my late teens leaving school. I wasn't very good academic. I kind of just bumbled through GCSEs and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, I don't know what I want to do. And it doesn't really matter, but it does. I didn't really want to go to university or anything like that. I was thinking about traveling, didn't really have any money. It was like, and then I got a call out of the blue from they'd now become an independent production company. They were looking over some old reels and they said, we'd love to meet you. We're putting a pitch together to do a kind of like news round type program, but out on the street, a little bit more real. Anyway, I went to London, got on with the producer really, really well, and we shot a pilot and they sold it to Nickelodeon. And I spent 2 years going up and down the country once a week shooting this news program with a load of other kids. And it was amazing. Like, through my 18, 19 years, that's how old I was at the time, kind of 17 to 18 type time. And it was amazing. I loved it. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a TV presenter. This is definitely what I'm going to do. And we're talking here at the tail end of the 90s. And so it was like, right, that's what I'm going to do. And it was like, well, how do you do that? And I'm kind of doing it, but I want to carry on with it. The series came to an end because I was like 18 and the rest of the presenters were like 12 or 13 and it started to look a bit odd. And so I was like, right, I'll go to London. And I was like, well, how am I going to get to London? I don't have any money to live there. And so for a couple of years, I was kind of like, I want to get away from Bognor. What can I do? I went back to college and did something just to fill the time. And then my brother moved from university down to London. It was like, right, here's the opportunity. I went and sofa surfed with him. And I spent about 6 months with VHSs, showing the age now. Went to every single agency in London, knocking on the doors, and I'd made a tape from the Nickelodeon stuff. And I finally got a few kind of interviews, and there was one guy, and he's funny enough, his name was Noel, and he was he said, okay, I'll give you a go. And he was looking after some very high profile presenters at the time, and I was like, fucking hell, like, Davina McCall, Dermot O'Leary, these people that I would admire. And I went to auditions and screen tests and all this kind of stuff, and it just didn't come off. And I was fucking gutted. And then I spent the rest of my 20s just kind of bumbling around. I worked in a post-production house in London, and then I started working kind of for an extras agency, but actually gave me a little bit of purpose, if you like. But I just don't. I was gutted, and I was like, what I wanted to do is never going to work. That's it. Fuck it. All over. Started missing I met my missus. She's from Bognor as well. We moved to Brighton. And it was like, what do I do now? I was commuting to London for a bit, and I was like, I've got to get a job in Brighton. This was in my kind of early 30s. I got a job, blagged it completely as a project manager. I don't know what the fuck that was. In a marketing agency. And for about 4 years, I started to go downhill pretty badly. We had our first child, we got a mortgage, and we moved to Worthing, and I just felt so much pressure. I was just so miserable. I didn't want to get up on a Monday morning. I was like, well, what am I doing? I'm blagging this. This is horrible. I can't spend. I'm only early 30s. This is it. Fucking hell. Like, my God. And yeah, it really, really spiraled. And it took a big thing. I kind of blew out, really. And
looking back on it, would you call it depression or?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really depressed, but it's confusing that, because you kind of like, well, what am I depressed about? Like, I didn't go through any traumas particularly, big standing traumas when I was younger. I've got a wife, I've got a kid, and I've got a job. What the fuck have you got to be miserable about? And it was just, I don't know. I think a lot of people go through this. and mask it quite well. And I was very good at that because I'm quite confident and stuff. I'll just be like, I'm fine, and put on a show, and then I'll just be like inside, just like, oh my God, I can't, I don't want to get up. And I started to have those thoughts of being a burden. Like, fuck it, like I'm better off not there because I'm a miserable bastard, and I'm not being very good in a relationship, not being very good at home. They'd be better off if I wasn't here. And
Were
that's
you
a
angry as well? It's often when people are depressed, particularly men, there's comorbidities around anger and losing your temper and stuff like that.
yeah, big time, a big
Yeah,
time. And I still have a bit of an issue with that.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
it
you
followed.
become really difficult to be around.
Yeah, big time.
It's funny though, isn't it? It's because a lot of guys do present in antisocial manners when they're psychologically distressed.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard Harry and his brother, the princes. What's his brother's name?
William.
William. I heard William talking at a conference once, and he was talking about his PTSD. He said it never happened. He never noticed it until his first kid was born.
Yeah.
And suddenly he noticed it. There was something about that event that he,
Yeah, I think I've had some anyway, I got to that point and I went able and I got to the point where I was on the edge of taking my own life.
were you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, Tyler. That's
That's
really,
that's all right. I'm again I don't mind sharing that because it's taken me a long
but
time to
still,
do that.
it's sort of
About nine
classic
years ago now.
story, isn't it? It's classic story from blokes. We have to get to the point where we're really in crisis and think
Just
topic.
totally just fucking lost it at my head,
It's just
and it's,
frustrating hearing that.
it's heartbreaking because so many people don't find that inner survival mechanism, and obviously the statistics will show that. And I don't want to. I want this to be a little bit. We'll go into a different subject, but I think it's important because it shows the back route of where I'm at nowadays and how I've
Great.
kind of grown and I still have my
And I
struggles
want to
like
say
everybody.
this as well. I think these stories are really important. Although, as I said to you, it's not Jeremy Kyle. We don't focus on that. We focus on the recovery.
Yeah,
Um, but it is important because if there's any bloke listening to it now, they can identify if they're going through it. And the
yeah,
message I want to give to them and that you want to give to them is don't wait until you're deeply in that hole. Put your
yeah,
hand up long before that.
yeah.
And just because it works, the help that's available does work. And
It
it's like
does.
any sort of problem, the more you leave it, the worse it will get.
It
The
festers.
sooner you start dealing with it, the better it gets.
It festers, Noel, but I think that particularly, and again, I don't. I think that we've still got a long. Again, we are as blokes
Yeah.
in our DNA is to our ego is very loud, and we all got a chip on our shoulder, and we don't want to admit to being weak or anything like that, and so we just soldier on, right? And
It's also, I think there's a lot of stuff around what mental illness looks like in society, and we sort of think
yeah,
it means that you're not functioning, but that's not true.
no, it's not. It's
Like you
not
can
true at
be
all.
there while you're highly functioning, which is the story
Absolutely.
that you're describing, right?
Yeah, and but I got to that point, and I had taken myself away for a couple of days. I went kind of able. I've never been one really to be massively on using substances at all, but I went off and got completely fucking obliterated.
Yeah.
And it was a cry for help. Truth be told, it was a cry for help. I was like, I was trying to, but and said this before, but the realization was it was a cry for help, but no one was there.
Yeah.
I was with myself,
Yeah.
and it's a double-edged sword. This because well, I don't know if it's the right saying to say that, but there is help, there is support, there is a way, but as well, it is down to you. You can
Yeah.
get the support, but it has to come from somewhere for you to put your hand up or connect with something or do something.
Well,
And
it's that thing. Well, often I think the skill that we don't promote enough with people is what I call help-seeking behavior. And it's just about structuring your life so that people will be there,
yeah,
so that when that cry for help comes, there's actually somebody listening and there's somebody who notices it. But there's so
absolutely
often
spot
folks
on.
isolate, I think, as well. But
There
that's
is.
where there's a significant problem.
And that's really interesting you should say that because that's where the second part of you can see my name, Tyler Slade, and versus life. A lot of what I'm doing and creating is coming from that place of there is somewhere which you can do the things that you need to do to look after yourself, but it goes deeper than that if you want it to.
Right.
But
But
it's
it doesn't
very
have to. It's
It
just
doesn't
like,
have to. It
yeah,
serves a purpose,
yeah.
and it's not to say everybody. And again, I think we've got to be clear about this: is that everybody has everyone. Again, this is said quite a lot now, but everyone has mental health, right? Just like physical health, we know this. Yeah. I think that I think the difference being is that there will be some people who will never really have too much issue with the mental health. They'll dip and dip out of stuff, but generally there'll be the proportion of a population which won't quite get it because they've never really felt that. But there's a growing number of people that are now in that bucket of struggling. And it's becoming more. And again, we can look at the culture and our society of how this is compounded, and now more people are kind of putting their hand up and
I think
got.
that's your wife in the background. Say hello to
I know. Yeah. So it's and I think that science as well. I think obviously with something like physical health, once upon a time it was just like it was a nice to have, and now we know we can see the neurons in the brain and what happens,
her.
and mental health is playing a bit of a catch up on it.
I
I
think
think
so.
it's got
But there's also, let's talk about guys in particular, because I
yeah
think
yeah sure
here as well, which is that, there's that concept called resilience, right? And resilience is just simply the quality and the number of social connections that you have. And the better those social connections and the broader, the more diverse and the more connected you are socially, the more likely you to have resilience. And resilience isn't, I won't feel anything. Resilience is, I've got resources to help me when life throws shit.
yeah yeah
That's all it means.
yeah
But
yeah
somehow in blokes, and it is this thing, I think, about blokes, is we somehow think of resilience as somehow connected with, I've got to soldier through, which is the opposite of resilience. That's brittleness.
yeah yeah
That's
yeah
a lack of resilience. And
yeah
it's really interesting, I think, that there. And I talked to you before the show started. I mean, I started in men's work in particular, like over 30 years ago. And it was an absolute disaster. So I'm really excited now to be talking to guys who are doing the sort of work that's needed, you being one of them, Dad Lasol being another part of it. So let's catch up with your story. Your story was like, you're in this suicidal space. And I just want to
yeah
say using that word might be a trigger for some
no
people.
yeah that's okay
But if people are in that space, and guys listening, you are in that space, it's really important you understand that there is help. My first port of call would be call the Samaritans, reach
yeah
out, make a phone call, talk to
yeah
people. The more you
yeah
talk to people about these feelings, the less likely you are to act upon them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what you're saying.
It's got to come out
Yeah,
in one capacity or another. We can't keep it inside. And I'm very fortunate that I obviously have brothers, and one of my youngest brother in particular came, and I literally just cried with him for about 8 hours,
yeah,
I think. And it just was there. I just knew that I was, he was just keeping me safe. It was there. And then I went to the GP, and I said, like, and we were chatting and stuff, and I got some talk therapy and those things, and they really really helped. But I also felt that, again, I had to be courageous enough to go stop with this. And again, the hard thing is like, well, what do you mean just stop? Like, because my wife was like, you can't do this job anymore. It's obviously a compounding part of this. You're putting on too much of a mask, and it's kind of like, that's all very well, but how the fuck are we going to pay the mortgage? The realization kicks in, and it's like, we'll handle it. We're fortunate enough we're going to be okay. We're not going to, we've got people that can help us on that front. Swallow that
I
pride.
want to focus on that as well a little bit, because I think it
Yeah.
is another thing that guys feel in particular. We still live in a society where there are structural inequalities in income. That's the
Yes.
truth.
Yes.
Even though most British households are two-income households,
Yeah.
most still are reliant on the fact that because of these structural inequalities, the guy earns more.
Yeah.
So families often rely on a guy's income, and there is that pressure, right?
There is.
And it's genuine, real pressure, and that sense of, particularly around depression, the feeling of like, I'm failing, I'm a burden, and all that sort of stuff, which he went through, I know. Particularly can resolve around this. Am I the provider? Uh,
Mm.
and can I continue to provide? Because often, as guys, we place a lot of our identity in that, being the provider.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. We do. And the truth be told, I don't think we can shake that off. I think that's
It's
generally who we
no,
are.
I've just told you it's a social reality.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
the truth. It's structurally, it's built in economically, in all sorts of ways. And yes, we need to change that. But the
Yeah.
fact is, at the moment, that's the truth.
I think there is a shift though, no. I think there is starting to be opportunities for for guys to take the kids to school. I mean, we're not in the 50s anymore here. Like, for
No,
fuck's sake, like we've moved on. Yeah. Time changes, let's move with it. But it is still it's still a work in progress, and it's probably will be for a very, very long time. And we'll never lose that because it is an instinct of a man to provide in whatever sense that might be. In this modern world, providing is bring in the bucks, bring in the money. But what it used to be is obviously go and get the meat or whatever, So it's still the same, but we can provide in different manners. But the fact of the matter is as well, if we want to have some freedom, unless you want to go and live in a hill as a monk, which is fine, but I'm not really up for that. You do need to have finances. You do need that. Like,
but your experience was when you talk to your partner about it rather than withhold it. It's
yeah,
like, okay, we're a team. We'll sort it out.
what are we going to do? And it's
Surprising was that to you,
I
right?
mean, it's just like, and she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm mid-30s. What do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, be a footballer. Do you know what I mean? I'm fucking mid-30s. Like, it's gone. And I think what was heavy on my mind though, Noel, was because the one thing I ever wanted, and I thought that I was going to be, I didn't become. Right. So the TV thing, going back, if we trace it back, that's what I had everything bundled into, and it didn't come out. So I'm nothing. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna gather. And it's fine. And listen, I want to make this clear as well. Some people will have a job, and they won't particularly like the job, but they'll stick with it, and they'll be fine, and they'll have a life outside of it. They'll just clock in, clock out, whatever. But I'm not made like that. I don't think. I think people. I need to be. Feeling like I'm moving up or moving
You're an
forward.
extrovert. That's your energy.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, we got to this point, and it was like, now what? And it's like, I don't fucking know. And then, fortunate for us, we were in an NCT group with a lady who worked for West Sussex Public Health, and she said to me, "Why don't you look at your
Childbirth Trust.
pardon?"
National Childbirth Trust.
Yeah, the NCT groups where you learn to deal with shitty nappies and whatever.
Yeah.
They don't tell you about the kids being little arseholes, but yeah, they teach you how to be anything else. But they yeah. So
Basically about NCT, this is really interesting. Again, I've just started to cut across, but I think it
no,
is an
please.
interesting point. Now, if you look at the NCT website and they look at marginalised groups in terms of support for marginalised groups who can't access services as a parent, they list men. So they recognise that men are, and I remember doing this as well. Like in my early days, you would have these parent and toddler groups, but as a bloke, if you went, you would know they're not. They're mother and toddler groups. They're
Yeah,
not
for
parent and
sure.
toddler groups.
Yeah, I think
So
that
it's
again,
really
it's great.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think there is a shift in that as well, though. I think the stigma still perhaps is there, but I do think it's better. I do. I see so many more blokes now dropping off their kids and being part of all that kind of stuff. I see more of that, and
I
that
think it's interesting that
well,
you're in. That's the point I'm making is that you're talking about, well, I was at an NCT group and they were welcoming to me and so carry on with your story. I just wanted to make that point because,
no, it's good.
who are struggling will be experiencing these types of things. And you're not mad, it's the truth, but you've got to go through these problems. These are roadblocks.
You got to, yeah. And I think it's yeah. So and it was. And she said, why don't you look at your local authority? And now, again, coming back, no disrespect to my old man, but he always had his back up against that. He's, anti-Tory. The West Sussex has pretty much been ruled for a long time by that party, etc., etc. So I never even thought about that. I was like, I'm fucking going to work for that. And then when the more I looked into it, I was like, actually, that is quite interesting. I looked at this role and it was a wellbeing advisor. And I thought, wow, okay. What do I need for that? And there wasn't really too much. It was a very long process to get the job, but again, I kind of blagged it. But when I got the interview with who was really one of those influential people in my life who unfortunately died last year, she got me straight away, and she saw through and she said, just be you. The thing is here, Tyler, is if you want to connect with people and help people with their well-being, forget the bullshit, just be who you are. You can learn nutrition, you can learn the skills. What you can't learn is that real empathy and that real connection with people and getting people, making people feel comfortable, etc. So I got that job, and I've been doing it now for where are we? We're in my seventh year, sixth, seventh. I
Brilliant.
always forget. I
That's
get losing it. Anyway, I've been a health and wellbeing advisor for the local authority on behalf of West Sussex Public Health. I've supported thousands of people, thousands. And generally,
to be honest, Tyler, they must have loved it when you walked in the door because they're
a
desperate.
breath of fresh air. It's like, thank goodness,
But also, they're just desperate to get blokes to do it because that's the.
You're
It's
right. There was
very,
only you're absolutely spot on because now I look still in our team. There's only two blokes. There's me and one other guy, right?
yeah.
And it's fine. But
No,
yeah,
it's not fine. It isn't fine. It's. I know what you're saying. It's reasonable. It's fine. It's all that sort of stuff. But we do need more men in these positions. Fact.
yeah,
We
yeah,
absolutely. Blokes need to get involved in this stuff because we've got generations of boys growing up who need that modelling.
yeah. No, you're right. You're
The
right.
healthy guys who are emotionally available, who are not toxic, who deal with their feelings, who are
Yeah,
vulnerable and open, are working in the care sector.
yeah. And they're not
I
bell
was the
ends,
only
Yeah,
bloke on my training when I was training.
yeah,
The only
yeah,
bloke, right?
yeah.
My supervisor said to me, "Noel, you need to build yourself an armor suit for that course." Like, what do you
They're all
mean?
coming at you. Yeah,
Well, I didn't actually. They were all really nice.
really lovely.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely, but it does have to change. These things have to change, right?
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. And I think it's I love my role. However, and again, I need to be careful what I say. But I think again, I've kind of reached a little bit of a limit with it
Okay,
in
yeah,
terms of unless I want to kind of go onto the back and start working on the strategies and go into meetings with
that's the
different.
unfortunate thing about promotion in that context. Yeah,
I'm not,
not more of that.
I'm not keen. I'm not keen on doing that. That's not for me. Each to their own for different people. But I need to be on the ground. I need to be with
It's a
clients.
problem with those types of services that they
It
promote
is.
away from the front line rather than promote on the front line.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been doing it for for this many years, and I've learned so many skills, and I'm so grateful for the job that I still have, and I still do it. But in this last year, I've started my transition to my own thing, which I can do things in my way, and learn from various bits and bring them together.
But weaving the thread around Dad La Soul and how that came into your life, and then we're going to get to VS Life.
Yeah.
So tell me about Dad La Soul and what that.
So yeah, so that like I say, Dad the Soul was founded by Dan, and he started the family raves at first, and been to all of
I
them.
reckon it was people behind him, to be honest.
Sorry.
He's not. I reckon it was people behind him. He makes that claim, but he isn't that talented when it comes down to it. There's some power behind that throat shot.
Yeah, I did it all. No, no, I'm joking.
Was it you? I knew it was you.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and he started to identify the gap and the need for blokes. And I was one of those, really, to be honest with you. Like, I've got lots of mates. I don't see them that much from school. We're in a WhatsApp group, but you move and you change towns, and you have maybe have people at work, but I didn't really have like a tribe or a community that I felt like I could just like not, I didn't. There was no bravado. Like it's you can just whatever, just be you, and it's so diverse, that group. Like that, it's mental. Like there's so many things now that are spun off the back of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's generally just is anybody who's going to connect with that. It is a bit odd because of this society. Like, well, go and meet blokes that you don't know when you're a bloke. Like, what's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? What are you gay? Like, what And it's like, no, I'm all right. I'm not gay enough. I'm just normal straight guy. But
Yeah.
I need to have some brothers that I can, that can hang with, or maybe just not say anything with, and just do stuff with. And
Which
yeah,
is
and I think
that definition of resilience that I gave you.
yeah, exactly what you're saying. The community of that is so essential. And I think the thing is with it as well is that
And it's also blokes need to hear this, that the pattern in many men's lives still is this, that the only person they go to when they've got emotional needs is their partner.
That's it. And that's
And
good, but you need something
it's
else.
not enough. It's not
It's not
enough.
enough.
It's not enough.
I think the other thing on that note, very quickly, is
Yeah.
that the thing as well is that we men and women do think differently. That we have to. That's factual. We have different takes on certain things, and that's where a lot of conflict comes in relationships, because you can't
Women
quite
don't get as
understand why are they thinking it like that.
No,
We're
you're right.
different.
It's right.
We're
And
different.
other blokes will get it, whereas the women in our life may not get it, and we're navigating various unexploded mines and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
particularly, we're married to them. We've got a relationship. I mean, it's like insane if blokes thinks that, that's where you can go to when you're wanting to have a partnership with somebody. It's
Yeah.
often the last person in the world that really you feel like you can go to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so you're stuffed.
So this is a space, right? And I think what I was going to say is that I think anybody who is, first of all, I have so much respect and admiration
Yeah.
for anybody who is tapping into one of these groups of men, because it takes courage and balls to do
Yeah.
that, right? And I think if you've done that, then you're on somewhere, if you want to agree or not. And again, this might sound a bit wanky, but you're on a journey of growth. You're trying to change something in your life. You're trying to just get some support, make a different choice about seeing things, try to improve yourself in some kind of way so you can be a better version for everybody else that you love and everything else. So I have nothing but utmost respect for any guy who is kind of ringing a line or go into a talking group or go into a Dadless Soul. I'm this brilliant, right? It takes so much courage to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant. And a curiosity as well. I think that's, we lack, again, certain people are just so like, they're just narrow-mindedness, and that's fine, but and then they'll bumble along and it'll be fine, whatever. But again, not for me.
I agree with you. Here's my truth in that context. Even though there's a whole bunch of these gammon steaks on TV who'll sort of get angry and talk about snowflakes and stuff like that. My experience is this: when you put your head above the parapet as a bloke and start doing this stuff, loads of blokes get interested and very quiet and get involved and are really admire and understand what you're doing and see you as a leader, and see him very much elevate you and start to follow. And that's the truth.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah, it
experience.
is. And I get so many the community I've now grown, and I'm growing. I mean, I'm not going to share some of the messages, but some of the messages from the guys, it's heartwarming, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'm not fucking hell, thank you, man. Like, and fair play to you. And I always try and I'm okay at taking the compliments. I don't mind that. I'll be careful. I'm on my head and that, but like I'm all right with that. But I also want people to recognize the power in themselves. And I don't mean that sound wanky, but I want them to see that it's like, listen, it's
You
as much
carry on sounding wanky. It's fine.
as much as as good as the person is in front of you, as good as the support you're getting, you've got to remember that you are creating that, because you don't need to be here, you don't need to connect, you can fuck it all off, keep your head wherever. So you are doing the work, really, actually,
Yeah.
and that's coming from within. So make sure that when you give people praise, that you're equally bouncing that back to yourself, because you're giving someone praise, but the praise needs to be to you, because you're allowing them to give it to you.
I would say as the professional who's worked in this field, the attitude you're displaying is the healthy attitude. So, two guys, here's a little health and safety warning. If you meet those groups where you've got a leader who's a charismatic and it's all about them, you're in an unhealthy group. If you meet a leader like Tyler who's saying, no, it's about you and what you want to achieve, you're the person here, then you found a healthy leader.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll tell you what, on that note, though, and this is where this different, what is it, imposter syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
I often find this thing of myself, though. I know deep down when I think about it, I'm like, I know what my intentions, I know where they're coming from are good. They're coming from a love place, they're coming from wanting people to, but there's this part of me that kind of niggles, and I'm kind of like, this is where I found what I'm creating hard is I'm now taking this and I'm looking to monetize it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that doesn't sit great with me. And I'm learning to understand, though, that it's like, hang on, Tyler, right? Hang on a second, right? So, and I'm still working through this. So I find it hard to like to tell people how much it's going to be and to raise prices and all. And I've never run a business before, so I'm still fucking bumbling through this and making it up as I go along, right? But there is part of me that kind of that's like, yeah, but where's your agenda, mate? Like, you're just trying to rope people in to give yourself more money to grow, and yes, I am, but I believe in what I'm selling, and this is where I've got to get my head at. And it's interesting because I have this thing, and I was thinking, if I won £100 million,
What would you be doing? Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Would I still do this business? I'll be like, fucking right, I would. It'll be even bigger.
I tell you, the businesses that the business in this sector that survive are the businesses that figured out why they are doing what they're doing.
Mm.
And the other issue, and this is again, it's a self-esteem issue, obviously,
Yeah,
and which is about how do I value what I'm doing monetarily? Because that's the ultimate level in society. It's sort of like, but as you say, and it's really honest of you to say, it's an emotional journey that it really is,
yeah,
and and money people don't really take on board. I don't. Why did you see a thumb come up on my
I
screen? What
did.
was that?
There you go, mate. Thumbs up. I
I
yeah.
just move my hands and it starts copying them and put them on the screen, whatever.
If there was a poo that floated up or something, I don't know,
Yeah.
it would have been a little bit embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Um,
Big lump of shit. Go on.
I hope that doesn't happen. So, what if I do that? Maybe that sort of poo with the smile will come. Will you?
Yeah,
No,
some
you
big
mustn't
lump of
do
steaming
that.
shit. Go on.
So this thing about this emotional relationship to money, and value and worth is really, really important. And it's really significant in people's lives. And I think a lot of guys don't really get it. That is, and it's really interesting that as you set up this new phase and new business, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is that you're confronted with that. Now, the point I'm making is this. Understanding that it's bringing up feelings for you means that you can manage your response to it better. And that's what you've learned over the years is that
Absolutely.
those struggles are really important to notice in yourself and to deal with. Because when you
Mm.
don't deal with them, you end up wanting to top yourself.
Making bad decisions. Yeah.
That's the
And
fact.
and we're right in saying that what you're saying here is that and it's interesting because I listen to lots of different things and stuff, and what you're saying here as well essentially is having an awareness. It has to start with an awareness of something
That's
because
right.
if you're aware of it,
Yeah.
then you can, if you bury it and you're not aware of it and you ignore it or you think it doesn't exist, then you're in shit.
You
So
really are. Really
awareness.
are. Compartmentalization is a failed strategy. Do you know where compartmentalization, blokes are really good at compartmentalization, right? Do you know where we got that definition of it from?
No.
Where the term was first used? By psychologists who were trying to understand the guards that worked in Nazi concentration camps. Because they were
Right.
always going home to happy families, right? And then during the day, their job was to murder millions of people. In
Wow.
the evening, they'd go home, be happy families.
Mm.
How do you do that? How does any? Well, they came up with that term compartmentalization, right? So compartmentalization is something that guys can do, but it's a disaster. It really is. We have to be integrated
Yeah.
in our responses to things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can make really disastrous decisions. So I'm really excited that you took that risk of being courageous and saying, while I'm vulnerable about it at the moment,
Yeah.
how do I set myself up as an economic entity? How do
Mm.
I value my services through money?
Yeah.
Of course, you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel some vulnerability around that. So, high five, mate. Well done.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
I
that's a
still find
great
it difficult.
process.
You know what? I still find it difficult though, and I think that's kind of the experiences again, I don't want to, and this isn't putting down my old man in particular or my mum or nothing, but the attitude, unfortunately, that and the belief system that my dad probably still holds quite a bit was that anyone who was wealthy was a wanker, right?
Right.
um, you know, is, posh cunt or, greedy bastard, whatever. So because he never had it. And I think that was, coming back to him and as a musician, he was a wonderful drummer and fucking toured and played with all the great musicians, but he never made money from it. He did at the time, but it came in and went out. He never got any royalties from anything. And I think he would probably be in a different mindset
Yeah.
if
What did
so
Mandela say?
anyway, and I think that plays on me. I think that's probably part of what's
Yeah, yeah.
going on.
No, I
I'm
think that
working through it.
that
I'm
third
working through
party
it.
stuff is real, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nelson Mandela, what did he say? We're not afraid of our darkness, we're afraid of our light.
Hmm.
And putting ourselves out there and measuring ourselves in a real way. Now, it's interesting, and a lot of guys will identify with this because you have been measuring yourself all your life. And for a long time, you found yourself wanting. Now you're measuring yourself again. So, of course, it's vulnerable.
Yeah,
But actually, because of the changes you've made in your life, the resilience that you've now developed, you can face that vulnerability in a different way, right?
yeah.
And
I
that's
heard something.
great.
Yeah, and I think like again, I might have mentioned already, and it sounds again for someone who's not in this space of kind of developing themselves, and again, I don't mean that to be rude to anybody, but looking to improve themselves in some way, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. I think there's this, and I heard this the other day, which is quite profound. Was I thought anyway was like we talk about what's your purpose, what's your why, and I've got my why is that I can I've got kids and I want them to grow up and I want them to be good adults and nice guys and I want to take care of them and I want us to experience things and have memories and we're going to I was bawled at them at the top of my lungs last night, fucked up, but I told them that I said I messed up
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna try again, mate, and I'm really sorry. And you were a little shit though, we got
yeah,
you got to learn on your back chat, whatever. But the point I'm making is that what's my purpose? And I heard this the other day was this: purpose isn't a thing. It's not a thing. People are like, where's my purpose? Where's my thing? My purpose. Purpose is an attitude,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So on that was the penny dropped from us. Like,
Right. Yeah,
okay, so I'm
absolutely.
searching for what am I searching for? It's like, man, you've got an attitude
Yeah,
to of purpose, therefore you have a purpose.
yeah. Coming
It's
to
not a
that,
thing that you get, it's not the end thing. There is no end thing. End things were dead, right? So what? But yeah.
and so karma, you heard about karma. Everybody thinks karma is being reborn as a beetle if you're not good. So karma and dharma are two concepts. Dharma is purpose and meaning, and karma is good life, right? Once you find your purpose and meaning, and once you align your life with that, you have a good life,
Mm.
right?
Doesn't mean it's don't won't be things that are going to be crap though. I think we need to be clear on this. I think because people
Yeah,
are like,
yeah.
oh, everything's wonderful now. No, no, there's still going to be
We've
shit. And
dealt
I
with
think
that with resilience. If you've got
yeah,
resilience, if you've got a team,
yeah, and I think this is
team
where my
Thailand, you're going to be all right, right?
I don't think you can see it. But this is where my motto of what I'm creating came from as
That's
well.
where
So,
I'm going to get to now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Life. Let's talk about that.
Well, this obviously is something which I'm creating and building up a community. It is generally at first I called it men versus life, but then I didn't want to kind of just pocket men because I'm whoever is everyone's versus life, and the versus life thing. So VS obviously being versus was that we are all here and it's us versus this life that we have,
Yeah.
right? And I was trying to decom I don't know what word I'm looking for here,
Deconstruct.
trying to work it out, and I came up with this and again it can sound a little bit wanky, and it probably is a little bit markety, but it has versus life: survive, strive, and thrive.
Yeah.
Right. So we have these three sections, but they will come in and out. So at one moment in your life, you could be striving, really working hard, and then suddenly something happens, and suddenly you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
Fuck, I've lost someone, or I've hurt myself, or whatever. But then we might get a strike of luck. I think luck's you kind of create it so much for yourself, and now we're thriving. But then suddenly something might happen, and you're trying to strive again. So we come in and out of these sections all through our life. I feel, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my kind of my ethos of what I'm doing. Is to is to let people know that it's all right to be in these parts, and let's see what you can do when you're in these sections.
Yeah.
How can you get to one from the other? How do you help yourself, the resilience to get back in one, or whatever it might be? So generally what the versus life is it is a fitness community. But
Yeah.
I look at this very holistically. And again, I use that word. Some blokes might think, fuck you know, what's he going banging on a holistic? Let's light some scented candles. But what I mean by holistic is it means there isn't just one single thing, it's a whole, right? There's different points of view, there's different perspectives of it. And when we come to fitness, I think there is this like fitness, i.e., run, lift weights, that kind of thing, which, yeah, and that's really important, people to be physically fit, but equally important to be mentally fit.
Yeah.
Right. And to be emotionally fit.
Yeah.
So the mission is to help us human beings versus through life,
Yeah.
survive, strive, and thrive, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And how I do that is I bring people together. I've crafted these sessions from my own experience, from what's helped me in the past. And I bring lots of different combinations to it. So giving you a quick example, I have a morning session, and we talked a little bit about this before. Mornings aren't for everybody. I totally get that, but they worked for me. And there's a lot of science backing how it is good to get up in the morning first. Anyway, so our morning sessions, our AM Accountability Club, we will move, we'll be in nature, which again is a huge part of what I do. I have this vision of having an environment where people can go and work on themselves outside,
Yeah.
not inside with big lights and
Yeah.
but outside. So we go into nature, we will run, we will move, we will use our body weight or use weights to work our body, we will stretch, we will breathe, we will get freezing cold. So we'll either get in the sea or we'll get in a river, and then we'll come out and we'll eat. And we'll have some breakfast, or we'll have a snack, or we'll have a coffee, and we'll chat. And we'll talk if we want to, or we won't. We'll have a laugh, have some banter, we'll take the piss out of each other a little bit, or whatever, that kind of thing. And then we'll leave. So my AM accountability clubs in the morning. I then also have twice a month I have this thing called the Power Hour. And this actually came from a friend of mine. And he said to me, Tyler, I love what you're doing in the morning, mate. But what about those that don't go in the morning? And where do you want to work? Do you just want to work in the morning? I was like, oh, not really. He said, well, do something during the day. So I come at this idea about the Power Hour, that people could come away from their working day. Obviously, again, I know it doesn't work for everybody, but a lot of people work from home these days and run their own calendars. And so I guess it fits for those guys. You come away from the desk for an hour. You move and stretch a little bit. You breathe. You disconnect from your laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
We move a bit. We breathe a bit. We get cold in the sea. We come out. We sit around a fire, and I'll give you a fucking decent lunch, like nutritious packed lunch. It's the Power Hour. It's 1 hour. So rather than you scrolling over your phone or buying a shit meal from somewhere every single day or whatever, or just not having a lunch break, disconnect, go away, reconnect, come back, you'll be in a better frame of mind.
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
So that's the Power Hour. And then I have twice a month on a Friday evening, I have a sea and sauna. So I've got really into the sauna in these last few years. And a few years ago, it'd be like, sauna would be like, I might have been in once, like on a fucking, like a spa retreat. My missus get in there for 5 minutes, but fuck, this is too hot and get out. I didn't really get it. I've looked into the science and I've started regularly using the saunas, and the benefits are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And when you mix the sauna with cold and you've got the contrast, it's when you come away from it, seriously, it's like being off your tits, right? You get this kind of, whoa, fucking like this really nice mellow buzz. It's great for your health and well-being in more ways than one.
Great thing is it doesn't activate addiction as well. So it's natural stuff, so it doesn't.
It's all natural fucking shit, yeah. And also, what I've done with the Friday nights is it's given blokes in particular a different option, because normally at the end of the week we want to release, we want to decompress, we want to get rid of the stress from our shitty week, we want to go out and get have a few beers and have a pizza or watch a movie or whatever. And I may be clear on this. It's not about not doing those things.
Yeah.
I still have a beer. I still watch. I still eat shit sometimes. Absolutely fine. But if that's all I'm doing, at some point it's going to come and fucking hit me in the arse.
Yeah.
Right. If that's all I'm relying myself on to help me decompress, I'm fucked. Yeah. So I'm giving people a different option on a Friday night. We go out. We go onto the beach. We move. We breathe. We get into the sea. We get into the boiling hot sauna. Sweat our tits off. Come back out, go in the water, come back out, go in the sauna. We do that. We do 2 or 3 rounds of that, right? Yeah. And then we sit afterwards, we'll have a cup of tea, we'll have a bit of a chat. And again, it's nothing but benefits for your health and well-being. And you've probably saved your pancreas a little bit. Yeah. You've probably not fucking spent so much shit. You're not going to have a hangover tomorrow. You're going to sleep like an absolute baby. And I do that twice a month.
Really?
As well.
So tell me because we're running out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's cool.
Have you got a website? Have you got a place to get hold of you?
I do. Yeah. So I'm working on all this, as you can imagine, but people can find me at Versus, so vs-life.uk. So versus-life.uk.
Not .co.uk.
No, just .uk.
.uk.
So
okay.
vs-life.uk.
Okay, great.
And all my kind of stuff is on there. I'm very fortunate that I'm slowly but surely I'm building up more and more traction with this, which is brilliant. And my sea and saunas now for the next 3 months are fully booked, which is fucking great. But I'm looking to grow.
Develop more of them. I mean, the point of the story is this: you went from wanting to top yourself to setting up your own business, and that journey is because you started working on yourself.
Absolutely.
That's it. And
it.
that's the message here, right?
It is.
If you take your own personal needs seriously and you
Yeah.
meet them, then
Mm.
your capacity in the world massively increases.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fact.
I think there's one thing as well, and I'll nick this from someone, and I don't mind. I always nick other people's stuff, and I'm going to give him a massive shout out because there's a lot of people I've seen who are in this space that I'm doing stuff, and I fucking admire. There's a guy called Jay Alderton,
Yeah,
and it's very local to me, but he's just bring out a book. It's called Hard Things, Easy Life, and I think that is wonderful because
okay,
I think
nice title.
you do hard things, you'll have an easier life. The
Yeah,
easy option is to do fuck all, bury your head in the sand, eat shit, don't do anything about it, but you're going to have a hard life because of that. And one way or another, it's going to come and get you. And a lot of people, it does, and they end it. They end it.
right.
And so the hard work needs to become. You need to be vulnerable. You need to have awareness. You need to talk, you need to work on your body, you need to eat a little bit better now and again, you need to do the hard work, but you'll have an easier life because of it. It's not going to be all roses because there's always going to be shit that's going to happen, but you will have that resilience we talked
Got to
about.
move us on because I've got to get to my kickboxing
You're
coach.
going. And you know what? I'm not going to lie to you as well. My battery on my laptop is at 10% and I haven't even got the charger, so it's
Running out.
perfect.
It's running out. Look after your battery, mate. That's my advice.
Yeah. Go and recharge it. Yeah.
Charge your battery. That's a good metaphor. Look, brilliant to talk to you. What a
And
fantastic story. And I wish you all the best. I'm going to be checking out your website because I'm going to definitely come and do the sea and sauna thing.
getting you involved, mate.
No, definitely. I mean, it's just genius. What I love about what you're suggesting as well, and this has always been the case, particularly around men. I know you're broader than that, but in terms of men and mental health, the argument has always been that men won't go into current mental health services. And therefore, there's something wrong with men. They won't do this. Well, men won't talk. It's not. It's current mental health services are not geared towards men. They need to be where men are. So setting up mental health services in a gym, essentially, in a fitness environment, is a stroke of genius because blokes, that's where blokes are going. Like I talked to
I think it's a no-brainer.
it's a total no-brainer. There's a bloke I had on the show called Graham who runs a barber shop. They're called Murdoch London, and they're a high-end barber shop, and they've trained all their barbers in mental health issues. I mean, of course, that's where blokes are going to get their hair done. It's an absolute no-brainer, right? You should meet Graham. I'll introduce you to him.
Link me up. Link me up.
Yeah,
Thank you,
he
Noel.
just got married to his partner recently, and I will link you two up because it's like he's totally like you as well, and
Love it.
and he also you could do with a bit of a trim, so he can sort that out for you.
You cheeky bastard. I literally just went and shaved before we got on this call. I'm no bullshit. I had I can't believe you just said that. You
We're
bastard.
just gonna end on that note. I like the
Thank
wine,
you, Noel.
the bottle blonde.
Lots of love, mate. Take care.
You stay there for a second. Hope you all enjoyed that. Get hold of Tyler. So VS dash UK. VS dash
My life. Yeah.
VS dash
That's
live
life
UK.
UK.
So get hold of him and join in some of his classes and teach him about self-care and looking after his beard. He needs a bit of help with that one. All right. See you next time.